The campaign. All right, so let's talk about the political battle that took place between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson for the fourth presidency of the United States. Now, these two are going to duke it out, obviously, to prove to the American people that one of them is better than the other. And we're going to make some comparisons at the end of this video to Trump and Biden and kind of the similarities between how these two campaigns got pretty nasty. But either way, in the very beginning, Jefferson promised to deliver states' rights and promised to run a simple government. That was the Republican way back in the day. It was the idea that basically the government is small, it stays out of your life, and really the state governments are left to make all the big decisions and make all the rules. John Adams and the Federalists, they promised to continue a period of peace and prosperity and keep on doing the things they were doing in the previous 4 years when they were president. But remember, I said John Adams didn't have the best first 4 years. So I don't know if that's the best launching point to tell the people about when your first 4 years weren't that great. Here's the thing, though. None of that matters because the campaign quickly turned into name calling and slander. Remember, the word slander goes back to the First Amendment. It basically means when someone uses speech to say not true or harmful, hurtful things about someone or something else. And as you may remember, that's not covered by the First Amendment. It's actually not constitutional to use your words to lie and damage the image or reputation to somebody else. Just take that how you will of what happened in the election in 2020. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But here's the thing. Federalist newspapers, so the newspapers that supported John Adams, they had some ridiculous things to say, such as Jefferson was an atheist, which means a person who does not believe in any formal religion, who would destroy religion and loosen the bonds of society, creating chaos and anarchy. Okay, first things first, is Jefferson an atheist? No, he wrote the Declaration of Independence in which he speaks about religion quite often in it. And he keeps referring to people were endowed by their creator. Obviously, he believes in God. He was a Christian. He wasn't an atheist at all. So this newspaper is running a false story. But before you feel too sorry for Thomas Jefferson and the Republicans, the Republican newspapers called Adams a tyrant who wanted to turn the country into a monarchy and make his children the next leaders. So he's basically another King George. Hold the phone. I'm pretty sure John Adams was a big part of the revolutionary movement to get rid of King George and then also supported the war efforts to basically create a democratic country. What? That's also nonsense. It's not true. Neither of these things are true. Similar to the election that we just saw, falsehoods like this in the media do pretty much the only thing is that they're going to divide people further and further apart and create more anger and animosity between the two groups that are supposed to be working together. This is exactly what George Washington didn't want to see when he left the presidency, was basically two groups that were so strongly against each other that they began to resort to lying and name calling to try to convince people to vote for them over the other people. Does that do anything good for our society? Does anything good really come out of that? Something to think about. So what I want to do now is I want to ask you this question. How does the campaign between Jefferson and Adams in 1800 remind you of Trump versus Biden in 2020? Think about it. We obviously know that the campaign started out with good intentions, but quickly turned into a name-calling slugfest between these two men. Could you say something similar about Trump versus Biden? And my question to you is, why do you think that's such a bad thing? Why do you think that's the wrong way to go about having an election? When basically the entire first debate between Trump and Biden, which I watched all 1 hour and 30 minutes of it, which I think I'm like the only person who might have done that. I have no idea what either of them stood for because they spent the entire time naming, it was the most pointless 90 minutes I have ever spent in my life. Is that really helpful? Think about it. This is going to have a good discussion. See you in the next video.